race briefing. The agenda tonight has two speakers. Firstly, Timothy Cox, who's the chairman of the race committee for this race, and it turns out I think all the Blue Water Pointscore races. Will talk to us about the sailing instructions, notice of race, etc. Dave Kellett will talk to us about radio procedures. Can I encourage everybody who has not signed in, please do so before you head out this afternoon. I'll hand it over to Dave. Would you welcome, hand it over to Tim. Would you welcome Tim to the microphone, please?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome. This will be fairly brief. It's a 6-race series, including the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. One's done, and there are 5 to go. The brief tonight does not apply to the Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. There are 3 things that I'd like to draw to your attention. One is safety, the other is to make it fair and equitable sailing, and the second is to deal with compliance. The Blue Water Championship is unique in that it's sailed around a whole lot of unlit islands or islets. It's sailed around rocks at night, generally, which most people would say increases navigation hazards. So the races have some inherent challenges as far as navigation is concerned. I draw your attention to the accuracy of the chart. The chart for the first race down to Flinders Island is the accuracy of the rocks off Port Kembla is plus or minus 50 metres, and the accuracy of GPS in that area can be up to plus or minus 200 metres. So I strongly recommend, if you're going to go on an electronic media, A, you get the paper chart out, and B, you keep your eyeballs very closely on your surrounds, particularly if you get there after dark and you have to deal with poor visibility, which is quite likely. And also for navigation, always have a plan B. For those who doubt my accuracy of people putting their head in the electronic charts and dealing with GPS, in a previous life, that it wasn't me, but HMAS Darwin went aground on the island of Oahu, which is fairly large for those who've been to Hawaii, and that was caused by generally negligence and a head firmly ensconced in a GPS system and a chart that was out by about 60 metres, and the GPS was probably out by 100, and they weren't paying attention. And the only reason Darwin ever returned to Australia was somebody stuck their head out the door and saw a swirl in the water from here to that wall, and that's how it missed by going home to port. So it's happened to a lot of people, so please be careful. Draw your attention that for this race, these races, I know everybody has crew changes, so please make sure that the safety briefs on the equipment and the procedures of your particular boat for man overboard, they're all very critical, and with changes of personnel, they're even more critical. The first race is always going to be challenging. I know it now starts at 10 o'clock, so it starts in daylight, so you get down to Port Kembla in daylight, if you're lucky. But the weekend weather forecast is, as you would expect, poor visibility, rain, and generally cold.
So where we go?
The less they go, the less worries I have. Radio skids, the times for radio skids, David Kellett will brief the radio in detail and draw your attention to 005, 0805 and 1605 on 4483. When you're coming back, then you should be on VHF 72 as you go past Hornby Light and advise the start boat that you're coming towards the finish line. Pass mark for comms as ever is 100%. When you get close to Port Kembla, then you need to go to VHF channel 11. Now I know the sailing instructions say you've got to be on 16 all the time. Well, switch it to 11. Most of you don't listen on 16 anyway, but get across to 11 so that you can talk, you in particular, so that you can talk and hear what's going on in the area with shipping. And remember your obligations as far as shipping and those vessels making their way in and out of Port Kembla, please. I draw your attention to the sailing instruction 4.1, which details the documentation that's required to be in by 1200 on the Monday before the race. So if it's not there now, you shouldn't be here tonight. You got yours in, Nico? Oh, good. The organising authority does have discretion to accept late nominations of documentation, but I would advise that I do need to be told before 1200 on Monday, otherwise I may not be helpful. Non-compliance, as you will know, would render a vote as being DNC. Declarations. The declaration is required by 1000 on the first working day after finishing. That would normally be on the Monday. If you haven't finished by Monday, then I suggest you start motoring that. Delivered to the sailing. The sailing office has in the past provided assistance. Due to an unfortunate incident in the last race between one of the boats and the sailing office, this courtesy will no longer be extended. So the responsibility for lodging your declaration rests firmly with you. We will not send texts, we will not make phone calls, we no longer will provide that service. You will get an electronic acknowledgement once it's been lodged. Okay, and the failures for not putting it in on time are either penalty of 20% or recorded did not finish. Please don't put us in that position because it only leads to unpleasantness, and I prefer not to have to go down that path. So everybody, by 10 o'clock on a Monday or Tuesday, if you've had a really bad time, make sure it gets in, please. If you retire or withdraw from the race, then there are three things I'd like to know. What were with it? Where are you going? Where are you? What's the cause? Your ETA, and then when you arrive, please advise the sailing office. Watch out, if you do get down to Flinders Island at night, it does have background lights. Visibility can be confusing, but please remember, visual is a lot better than electronic. I wish you all a very successful Blue Water Pointscore. For those of you who do get into any sort of radio problems with skids, you have Justine's telephone number, and she advises me that you also have mine. So don't hesitate to ring, and if I can provide any assistance before any of the races, I'm only too happy to do so. I wish you a successful season. Thank you very much.
Good evening, folks. As you are all very aware, the CYC take the radio procedures very seriously, and as Tim outlined, there are some draconian measures that are enforced if you miss skids, etc. Through the cooperation of Marine Rescue New South Wales, we're again able to utilise the services of the South End Signal Station, and we'll be running the skids from there and through offshore when it's out on the station at the finish line. If you require to call Marine Rescue Port Jackson during the race for information or a problem, please use that call sign, Marine Rescue Port Jackson. Whilst there will be CYC radio operators present at South Head for the skids, the signal station is manned by Marine Rescue New South Wales volunteers, and if you call offshore or CYC base, they're not going to pay any attention to you. So please make sure that you call Marine Rescue Port Jackson if you need to contact them. We'll use the call sign CYC base for the skids, and of course offshore is still the call sign when you need to speak to her, particularly when you're entering the harbour. We have several operators who will conduct the various skids this season. Dennis Doyle, who helps us out enormously in the Gold Coast race, Brad Kellett, Robin Morton, and myself. Robin's normally on offshore. As Tim pointed out, the frequencies for the Blue Water Pointscore is 4483. and 72 as a backup. If you can't hear the skeds on 4483, stand by on 72 and we'll contact you after we've completed the 4483 sked. We sometimes have a few problems when the boats are close in under the cliffs down near Wollongong, and we may be able to contact you on 72 at the time of the sked, but we'll probably link up with one of the boats that we've got a good signal with and use a relay. Tim also mentioned the 3 skeds, 0005, 08, 05 and 1605. With so many electronics on yachts today, there's a severe drain on the batteries. And while everything seems to be running along, your instruments are working, as soon as you hit the button to transmit your position, the battery's really drained. So please charge your batteries before the skeds. It's a simple thing to do, and it just saves a hell of a lot of time, inconvenience for everyone having to redo the sked for those we've missed. Now, several of you have automatic tuners on your boats. Now, the tuner only kicks in when you press the button to transmit. And if you haven't pressed the button before the sked, half of your position is lost because the tuner kicks in about halfway through that position. Then we've got to ask you to repeat it. Again, it's all causing delay and inconveniencing everybody. Similarly, please be on time for the skeds and give your position on the first run through. I know there are always problems at times. It's amazing how many spinnaker fire drills there are during the skeds. I think on the Gold Coast race recently we had 8 boats ring up. Oh, sorry, we had a problem on deck and I couldn't make the sked time. Sleep in, use an alarm clock. At the appointed time, we'll commence the sked with any weather warnings. We'll do the positions, and then at the conclusion of the position reports, we'll give the latest weather to you. Now, when reporting, we know you're in the south and the east. We don't require the decimals on the positions. A lot of people just read them straight off the GPS. We just need, for example, 3645, 15128. Plain, simple, done. Some of the races, of course, you're going to be going north or south, and we do need you to tell us whether you're doing that. We've got a pretty good idea from the weather where you are and what you're doing, and from the AIS. As most of you know, we don't stand on too much ceremony for the skeds. We try and belt them through as quick as we can, and it allows you to get back to sailing and not to be too inconvenient. As Tim mentioned, Flinders Island, when you're approaching that, you need to switch from VHF 16 to VHF 11, and that's within 10 miles of Port Kembla. When entering the harbour, you are to contact offshore when Hornby Light is a beam. Now that's when it's a beam when you're in the harbour, not a beam when you're outside. So when Hornby Light bears 090, it's a pretty good indication to you. And that's on VHF 72. And if you're retired during the race, please contact the sailing office and let them know what the problem is. If you can't get through, you can call through on the radio and relay that message that way. And if you're retired, please stay on the skeds until you're safely in port. Whilst you know where you are, you've probably got loved ones at home that are ringing Justine or Tim trying to find out where you are and what the problem is and why aren't you doing well. if you have an HF radio problem, make every effort to contact one of your competing yachts on VHF and report your position. The race director takes a very dim view when he doesn't hear anything from either VHF or HF. I just remind you of two sailing instructions. 714 is the radio log, and sat phones, you all know you've got to have those. So let's be punctual and we'll get through the skids as quickly as possible. Happy to answer any questions. None? Terrific. Thanks.
Sorry.
Yep.
For the Southport race, I thought, was the 448 frequency a simplex or a duplex? Or was that the 6 meg frequency that was the simplex one?
I think it's the 6 meg that causes confusion.
Right, okay, so this one's just
It's a simplex. The 4483 is a simplex. Okay. Thanks, folks. Enjoy yourself.